Hello, wellness warriors. I hope you're doing good today. It's Friday. Praise Jesus. I am like legit exhausted. Yesterday was a crazy day, and today's been interesting. Yesterday and today have been interesting. So so I'm inspired to make this video because of things that I've seen on like social media, so Instagram, Facebook, people I'm hearing what they're like doing with this quarantine. And I'm hearing a lot of people like who are like, oh, I'm gonna make sure that I write my book right now, and I'm going to get my killer body and drop weight. And then I saw this thing today on Facebook that is like, there's either two ways we're coming out of quarantine, and then there's like this really fit person, and then this person who's like eating all these things and they're not very fit. And so I feel like this is already a hard time as it is. People are struggling, whether some people don't know it, whether they know it or not, but they're struggling. A lot of people are struggling right now with their mental health. Isolation is really hard, and people are already having this pressure to stay alive and not get sick and make sure their families don't get sick. And now they have this other type of pressure that it's like, make sure you have your side hustle going on, and you have this fit body, and make sure you don't gain weight during quarantine, and homeschool your children, and make sure you're working from home and making money. And people don't realize, like, we're not working from home. We are surviving a pandemic while having to work from home and care for our children. I'm talking to many of my friends who are parents, and they are legit struggling with homeschooling while they work. Just the other day, I was walking with my children, and I saw a neighbor, and so we're like screaming to each other, right? And I'm like, how you doing? And she like showed me her beer, and she was like, this is how I'm doing. She's like, it's so bad. She has 5 children. She's like, I'm trying to homeschool them, and I'm working from home. And she's like, I'm just losing it. And I'm like, of course, like that is insane. How are you handling all of this? And we're expecting people to handle this. And now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if you're not a parent, you're not allowed to be overwhelmed, because I'm not just talking about parents. Yes, parents are very overwhelmed right now with everything that's being expected from them, but you don't have to be a parent to feel overwhelmed. I think everybody right now, it's pretty safe to say, feels pretty overwhelmed for the most part. And I think it's important that we give ourselves grace. I think it's important that we take a deep breath and realize that right now, we don't need to pressure ourselves into like all this growth and self-growth and getting fit and doing this and doing that. Right now, we need to survive and keep ourselves from not getting sick. Right now, we need to think of our community, of our family members, of our friends. We need to think of our children. We are trying to make the best decisions as possible as a collective. So it's not just about like, oh, like what I need to thrive. No, like we are thinking as, okay, like how can we make sure that people are not, like this doesn't get more serious than it already is, and we don't spread this virus. So right now it's about surviving, it's about being still, it's about healing, it's about just being with your family and loving and doing all these other things that you usually wouldn't do because you don't have time, like being still maybe. And I don't mean like doing all these other things like let me keep busy, right? I mean, literally yesterday we were on the porch just with chalks. We usually don't have time to do that. So we did that, or maybe taking walks. I mean, doing things that will help you right now keep your immune system up, because you know, if we're happy and we're doing well, our immune system is up, and that is what we need and is strong. And we need that right now so that we don't get sick. You don't have to doing things that help you be whole and allow you to feel well and that are good for your mental health. It's really important that right now we take care of our mental health, that we don't ignore it. And that's why I emphasized on, I think 2 videos ago, to go to therapy, the importance of actually like making an appointment. Everybody's doing virtual therapy right now. So like, get your telehealth on, see a therapist. It is important right now that you take care of your mental health, your emotional well-being. This is the time for healing. I don't want to compare it to, I don't know, sometimes I feel like kind of like we're at war somehow, because we have to protect ourselves and we're in this constant fear that something might happen to us or our loved ones. So we're hyper vigilant, and a lot of people are having nightmares. They're not sleeping very well. They fear for their lives, or they fear for their loved ones. I know many of my friends fear for their parents because they suffer from diabetes or heart disease. I worry about my parents. I worry that something could happen to them. I worry about my children. So we're constantly in this vigilant state, and that of course creates chaos in our body, chaos in our mind, in our spirit. And that's a lot to deal with. And so we get tired. So many people are telling me, like from friends to clients, family members, they're like, I'm really tired. And I'm like, of course you are. That is the way that you're responding to this trauma. And so it's normal for you to feel that way. And I said that, take your naps, be gentle with yourself. Please give yourself grace in the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of all this pain. New York, what's happening there, it's just devastating. Most of us are seeing the news or seeing what's happening. And my husband's a nurse, so he's in all these different nurse groups, and so I see what nurses are posting, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see what's going on. And I think that we're all in this state of fear. So right now it's just about taking care of ourselves and our loved ones. So don't worry about making sure that your to-do list gets done, because I feel like they're asking for the impossible sometimes. Many of the parents I speak with, they have very little directions into how to teach their children. They don't get the computer stuff. Technology is a foreign language to them. So please give yourself a break. Use your resources, reach out, don't be embarrassed, try to speak with your children's teachers, the counselor, whatever you need to do, but don't put so much pressure on yourself, because this is a lot. Like I said, just make sure that you're giving yourself that grace, and that you're giving yourself that empathy and that radical compassion at this moment, and know that this too shall pass. I do believe that it will pass. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to survive this. And I do know that our normal will look very different than what it was. So right now, this is a traumatic moment, collectively for us. So it's understandable that we're exhausted. And I know that sometimes people want to keep busy, and they think that the busier that they get, that the more worth they have. We have this like, oh, let me be productive. And if I'm productive, here's how I'm going to show my worth. And we don't have to do that. That's a lie. That's a lie that we've been told. And I challenge you to take a deep breath and a step back and live by grace, and give yourself that grace. These are really rough moments. And just like I was asking for grace for children last time and talking about their emotions, I don't think you can do that if you don't give it to yourself. So I think it's important that we are there for us. It's time to show up for us, and to know that we don't need to prove our value for our existence. We don't need to prove that we're worth something. A lot of people say that they don't feel that they're special. I've heard this throughout my career as a therapist. I don't feel like I'm special. I'm not good at anything. I feel like I need to prove my worth. And I feel like sometimes when we have a lot of downtime, I guess if you can call this, being at home, a lot of people think that this is a time to prove their worth, and you don't need to do that. Don't do that to yourself. This is not the moment. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. People are struggling, remember that. Reach out, just check in on your loved ones, and check in on yourself. Take a moment to just take a deep breath and go, how am I doing? How am I coping? And be real about it. Stay safe. Have a good weekend. I hope that you are loving on yourself and loving on others. I plan to just soak in all the love from my children and my husband this weekend, and taking good care of myself, because this week has been a little crazy, and quarantine life is hard. And I know that everybody wants to stay positive, and I see it on the Facebook. We have all these jokes about quarantine and all the positivity, but it's hard, and it's not easy what we're going through. It's definitely a challenge, and it's definitely okay to admit that you're struggling and that you're trying to cope the best way you can. And so cut yourself some slack. Maybe do some mindfulness, sneak in an extra nap, and just try to connect. And please don't feel like you need to drop 20 pounds and get your side hustle on and write your book and prove that you're worthy of being loved, because you already are worthy of being loved. You don't need to prove how extraordinary you are, because you just are for existing. Stay safe. Let's keep surviving, and let's just continue to do our part so that we don't spread this virus. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you for listening. Bye.